Hey, kitty girls, it's Sunday, May 5th, 2019. And if you couldn't tell by all the fan clacking in the background, it comes out loud Drag Race T-Time, season 11, episode number 10, aka Dragracadabra.
Dragracadabra.
Because that rolls off the tongue so easily.
Instead of, it's supposed to just like Dragacadabra, like.
Thank you. Don't need the R as a consonant. So unless that's like a trademark infringement issue, World of Wonder, what the fuck? That extra R's been throwing me off for what? Let's see. Today's Sunday, Friday, all Friday night, Saturday night, then say Sunday. Yes, been a couple of days.
Actually, it's been bothering you since what we found out that the title of the next show was Dragracadabra.
That's true. It's already been a whole week because we found out about the last 4 episode like titles and dates. Okay. Anyways, for those of you that don't know who the fuck we are and are like, huh? We happen to be 2 fantastic co-star hosts that put on this lovely little gig that we do to YouTube and then also make into an audio podcast. My name is Gary, and with me is...
Hello, everyone. It's Damon, our pup Umbra. That's like what's called pretty much often this weekend.
Yay.
Yay.
All right, so for Comes Out Loud, the podcast, we actually do this other series called COLDR, Comes Out Loud Drag Race T-Time, and we're going to break down discussing our thoughts on the latest episode, and we're going to pretty much just jump right into it.
Let's do it.
First up, we've got a mini challenge.
Ladies, for today's mini challenge, we're playing a game called Balls to the Wall. Now, each of you will be paired with one of these gorgeous hot mizzies who are wearing underwear provided by Dirt Squirrel. Now, the queen who gets the most balls in the sack fastest wins. Oh, and one more detail. You can't use your hands. Now, instead, I'll pick a card to determine each pair's position. You know, hip to hip, shoulder to butt, ass to ass.
All right, so we come up with a new mini game challenge, which I actually thought was pretty fun.
Yes.
And keeping to the tradition of what was originally promised at the beginning of the season, we get another returning Rue girl coming into the workroom at the tail end of all the men's.
Yes.
Miss Delta work just kind of walks right on in. I know. And she's pulling this like, sandy end of like Grease kind of fantasy.
Yeah. There's a little bit of like
hair.
goth girl kind of thing, little not gothy girl, but like not goth grungy kind of girl, like with the
I saw that with the little red flannel around her waist. I was kind of like, did you borrow that from Brooklyn? But anyways, just saying, because that seems to be a common thing that she wears, this flannel. Maybe she's trying to look like Trade. Anyways,
girl.
So, balls to the wall is the mini challenge. Basically, they need to try to take, a ball of varying sorts. They're paired up one queen to one of the pit crew. And then Rue tells them what ball to use and then how they're connected, which I thought was very interesting because that led to some unexpected moments in the challenge.
I would say, yeah, that's a good idea. Good way
so, David, what were your ideas on the mini challenge?
So for me, really, I thought this was a really awesome, fun idea. Like I thought it was cute. I thought it was, hilarious. The idea of like like adding the pit crew and nothing but underwear. I mean, that's obviously for like, like sex sells. We know that. But honestly, I thought it was fun. It wasn't obviously I wouldn't call it a skills challenge or anything along those lines, but it was kooky and fun. And I loved what some people were kind of coming up with. We got to know that, we found out obviously that Sugar is married. And she was like, "Oh, I don't know if my husband like, but he's so damn cute." And I'm like, "Yes, like he is adorable, but you know, be careful there, Mary."
Well, I was very much appreciative that Sugar was first, and she had to put her face right down next to somebody's
ass
area. So
face to ass.
yeah, and it was kind of funny because I thought there was a part of Sugar that was like, "Don't be fucking up this mug." Like, even though she is boy in this moment, I think she's had a little work done. Like, she didn't have Botox put in her forehead, but I think like she might have had like a little filler in her cheekbones. I'm not really sure. Like, so I could see where she would be like, you know, let's not impact the face. Like, let's not be strange or weird.
I was also really glad to see. Is it Scott?
Sean,
the one with the Sean. God
the
bless
original.
It. Yeah, it's
Girl,
always nice to see him.
Oh, you.
That
Ain't
man. It just that man like.
I like a thick boy, and notably Sean's. This is not meant to be shady, but he's put on an LB or two since the last time he was on. Because I noticed when he walked away, there was just the itty bitty folds, like back rolls. They're not even rolls. I don't even know what they were, but I don't know, but he was the most like animated and fun of the group. Like I think Sean, like because he's been on like what fuck all 20 some years, however long the show's been on.
Yeah,
like that he's just like, this is fun. Like this is literally just a playground, and we're being goofy, and nobody gives a shit. And his interactions with Silky, Nutmeg Ganache were classic. Like
he I don't know what it is. He's not my type like normally, but he is like just damn like
I put it this way. Like if I was to see Sean in a bar, I would probably talk to him. Like I may not just walk right up, but who knows, you know, and he's cute, you know, and I would not turn down if he was on one side of a wall and I was on the other and there was a whole
exactly.
That's what I gotta say about that. And if you're not understanding what David and I are referring to, there are pictures on the internet. You can go look them up yourself. Thank you, Google image search. So
he is a sexy man, and he is he has been blessed, as they would say. He has been blessed.
and especially in this episode, he seemed really like not I want to say childlike, but like just very kind of fun. In like animated in terms of his, you know, personality and stuff. So I appreciated that. For me, for the mini challenge, I basically said there were two things. Vanjie competes, like she gets real damn serious about like strategically trying to win. And Silky uses smarts. Silky's like, okay, the only rules are technically you're not allowed to use your hands. And Vanjie kind of does the same thing.
Yeah.
Because two of the times that they show Vanjie like going back and forth, I was like, is that cheating? And I'm like, I guess it's not, because you're technically not using your hands.
You're not putting your hands on the ball, I should say.
So yeah, and then I also thought it was interesting that Akira like clapped back at what was it? It's Silky, because Silky said something about them chicken legs, and then Akira like started doing kicks. It was like, you know, talking back to her, and I was like, ooh, I was like, little shade moment going on. So I did catch actually a little bit ago when I was preparing that audio clip. I thought it was interesting that most of the pit crew was in like this like sea foam taffy mint green color underwear, and then like only 3 of them were in purple, like this light lilac color, which I thought was odd. And I thought it maybe had to do something with skin tone, but I don't think that was it. And I just don't, I'm like, okay, either they should all be in one color, or you should have alternated it up enough that it made sense. So like they were all pastels, like pink and blue and yellow and like lilac and green. Like it was very confusing to me. And then, because then my other thought was, okay, so maybe they only sent so many pairs in one color, and then they ran out and they had to go start using another color. And the production team didn't think about the visual, like that they all come walking out, and they basically color blocked all the green, and then there was this purple. I was like, this doesn't make sense. I know.
Yeah,
it's kind of confusing to me. But
or maybe you're just looking too much into it.
Maybe I'm staring a lot at the crotches. So
I mean, maybe. I mean, hell.
Maybe Delta Work and I are related. Who knows?
And just so, like, thank you, Eric. He says my most favorite mini challenge that I could watch on repeat. I need screenshots so I can zoom in on some of those packages. Me too. Like, me too. Like.
Yeah.
There were some very handsome men's and some very wonderful looking packages up in that moment. Good job, Dirt Squirrel, on your pouch or package lifting or tucking, whatever. Like, those are some really good underwear. Let's just say that.
Right. Speaking of Dirt Squirrel, so Damon and I are actually individuals that are proud customers of their products because
not me so much.
You have a fan from them, I'm pretty sure. You have no fans from Dirt Squirrel.
Correct.
Not at all.
No.
Are you certain about that?
I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
I have several from Clack That Fan. I think I have one or two from I can't remember now, but it wasn't Dirt Squirrel.
Okay.
God, I hope not. If it is, I'm sorry. Like I will refrain myself if it isn't. I'd have to go look now. And okay. I lost one. The one I'm thinking wasn't from Dirt Squirrel or wasn't from Clack That Fan is my Wolf one with the gummy bears on it. And I think I left that at the theater for the 90s concert.
Oh no.
Okay. I feel sad, but not too bad. But anyway, moving right along.
Dirt Squirrel is known for having these fans with these fun sayings and stuff on them. That's where my Shade fan's from. So I was pleasantly surprised to see that they now carry underwear, apparently. So they're expanding out. That being said, Miss Vanessa Vanjie Mateo is the winner of a $2,500 gift card from Dirt Squirrel. So that's going to buy a couple fans. They're not cheap. So, I mean, it'll buy a bunch, but, you know.
Still.
So, and here's the thing is, when they give these gift cards out, I haven't been able to figure out yet. If you have to pay attention to the wording because it says $2,500 gift card from Dirt Squirrel. So is it a gift card, like a Visa gift card for $2,500, or is it a Dirt Squirrel gift card for worth $2,500? Because I think if they say gift card to, that means like you have to spend it with a particular company. But I'm not sure. So, and we'll get to that later when we talk about who's the winner of the episode. Because I'm like, there's a big difference between the two. Because if Angie just won a whole bunch of fans, good for her. But if she actually won cash, then
good for her.
Right. Like you can choose to do stuff with that. Because the show has been criticized in the past for people winning things that they don't need. A la hair products for Sasha Velour. I'm never going to let that go. All right. Moving on. Just saying. It was just annoying as hell.
Yeah,
it was. Needless to say.
Ooh.
Okay, you ready to?
I am ready.
Okay,
they got some fans on sale, y'all. By the way,
ladies, for this week's Maxi Challenge, you need to razzle dazzle, mystify, and amaze as you star in your very own magic show. Now, you'll be performing in 2 teams. Now, Vanjie, you won the mini challenge, so you get to choose your magical sisters.
Uh-oh.
So, benefit of winning the mini this time is it's team challenge, and you get to pick teams.
You get to pick your team, actually.
Well, right. You get to... Yeah, you basically force the non-picked to be a team.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say this. I think they were trying really hard to force a storyline that is not there. Some drama that is not there. And therefore, I was kind of over it really super quick. And that being that Vanessa does not pick Brooklyn to be in her team.
Yep.
And Rue has to, when she comes back in to check on the teams, talk to them, and she kind of tries to, talk to Brooklyn about it. And Brooklyn doesn't really take the bait in that she says, I'm not bothered by it. Like, you know, it's competition.
Right?
Like then she actually, it says we have a situationship, like meaning we kind of have a thing going on between the two of us, but it's purely because we're here in this competition in this moment together. And I was like, alrighty then, like, look at how adult we're being about this.
I know,
like,
right?
We get to the like freaking 11th season and everyone's all about, you know, trying to make relationships happen on the show and all these years. And now that we have one, it's like, it's not that big a deal. They're just, you know, being extra loving with each other. Although I do think that Rue instigated and said one of the funniest things in quite some time, in which she was like, well, did you slip her to the tongue? Brooklyn a couple of times. She's like, did you slip her your pinky finger? I was like dying. I was like, no, she did not.
Pinky. Did you pinky finger her?
Yes. And then Brooklyn has like the best reaction. She's like, oh my God. She's like so embarrassed. And she's like, I feel like a 12-year-old schoolgirl. I was just like, that was amazing. It was a moment. So yes, the challenge is perform in your very own magic show. So the groups are the Mighty Tucks, which are kind of considered the other team, quote unquote, because these are the remainders. It was Brooklyn, Nina, and Sugar, aka White Girls, which is not technically correct because Sugar is Native American and I think Puerto Rican. So she's actually more probably a queen of color than she isn't. So that was another storyline. I was like, okay. And then the team that Vanessa put together was Da Black Magic. So we had Akiria, Silky, Vanessa, and Evie, aka Team Big Personality. So, Mr. Damon, what were your thoughts on the Maxi challenge portion?
Let me. I typed this wrong. So one team was spellbinding, another missed the mark, and I bet you can tell which ones. So I was personally really happy with Nina and her team and what they did. Their performance was on point. Everything worked. It looked polished. It was so put together. They had jokes. They went back and forth. There was some banter. It was entertaining. I could watch that show again. Like, that's why I like it so much. Was the magic amazing? No. It was fun. And what they did with it made it fun.
Right.
You know, so kudos to them and the Mighty Tucks for doing this whole great thing. The other team, it felt, and well, as we find out, they changed a lot of things like at the last minute, and it felt that way. Honestly, they started off okay, and then it just kind of went into this weird meh like moment for me. Like, I need you to get to the joke. Okay, you go to barbecue to spread the black magic.
Dressed like you are.
Yeah.
Like their look was less cohesive in my opinion.
Yeah.
It just like, and here's one of the key things I think that happened. Sugar says in confessional to camera that the night before the three of them rehearsed. She said we got together, we rehearsed, we worked it out, and so this morning on the new day, Brooklyn and Nina feel much more comfortable with what they're doing. Sugar never had a challenge necessarily with her magic trick. It's pretty straightforward, and easy enough to do. Brooklyn's, on the other hand, got changed. Instead of doing the flying card trick, she ended up doing the hard magic bubble trick. Nina stayed the same the whole time. So, but they were also the second team that got their tricks. The first team got their tricks, and I felt the first team, to Black Magic, they felt overwhelmed by,
I would agree,
what the magic tricks were that they were supposed to be doing. So
I don't know. Like, I was wondering, like, how did the tricks work? Did they like get to pick them? Did the script pick them for them? Were there other magic tricks that they could have like chosen? You know, we obviously saw what we saw, right?
Right.
So we don't know what all was.
when they sat down as teams, it appeared that each team in their like paperwork, their prep like folder of stuff, that they had to choose their tricks, because remember, like Silky decides she will go with the milk trick.
Okay.
Evie said she would take like the reappearing bra
The bra.
trick. And so like they kind of picked their specific tricks. And if I recall correctly, none of their team's tricks changed.
Yeah.
So
I can think of.
Yeah, so I don't really know like how that happened. I think that the magician, who by the way, I thought was kind of cute, like as I think
He
John
was
Paul
kinda
made a
cute.
reference to him to like, it was Seth Rogen-esque. Kind of a goofy guy, thing, but yeah, like there was just something.
Kyle Merlot or Merlet.
Okay.
Just I remembered his name and I wrote down he's cute next to his name in my notes.
Well, I mean, I was like, oh, look, we've got like this bearish kind of husky guy, that's on there in a goofy shirt and whatever. And, is trying to, teach the girls stuff. But at the same time, I felt bad for him because I was like, it seems kind of obvious that he hasn't been on camera before, like on a set where they're filming things, just because of his personality, like how he was reacting to the queens. It was kind of odd to me because it was almost like he'd never worked with drag queens before. Like he never understood drag queen humor or their personalities, which I thought was strange because I was like, Silky was not surprising me. Like Dub Black Magic, like their whole premise from the beginning was that it was very adult. And even I was kind of like, oh, okay, this is the direction we're going to go. But his reaction to it seemed surprising. So I thought, well, maybe this won't work well for them. There was this whole weird kind of thing about whether or not there's going to be children present. So, which then in the audience shots, by the way, John Pauly, I believe, is in the audience. Raven was in the audience. Like I spotted some faces. I was kind of like, oh, look at who they filled the audience with. Just saying.
Yep.
So I don't know.
I'm unsure about what it was. It seemed very odd. While the guy is cute, I'm trying to look him up. Like I found his like page. I'm trying to figure out if there's anything interesting or fun about him. I can't figure out.
And there was another part of me that was kind of curious as to whether or not he was gay. He doesn't have to be gay, but I know that in the seasons as time has gone by, Rue has been really supportive of like our LGBTQ community, like bringing in like out identified entertainers, artists, choreographers. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
I don't want to make that presumption from the beginning, but I didn't get a feeling from him one way or the other, which is perfectly fine. But I was just kind of like, okay, I don't like. Since it wasn't one of the more traditional people, I was like, okay, like here's an example of how they could have like really stepped beyond their threshold box of entertainers if they had brought in like Penn Jillette. Do you know what I mean? Like if they brought in a real magician who has like this crazy outgoing personality that, is very definitively well known. Of course, they probably couldn't afford it. Who knows?
Yeah.
It's difficult to say.
But it's, I'm happy he was, it was a good take. It was a very interesting thing. Like that was one of the things I was very confused about or concerned about. Like what magic tricks did they know or what are they supposed to know? Blah blah blah. So
right.
But yeah, the other team definitely, like to me, missed that mark in regards to entertainment. It, like I said, it kind of screeched to a really, really bad halt. Like, and I wasn't a big fan of it. Like it compared, the two felt like two totally different things. And
yeah. I mean, for me, I summed it up as this way: fun versus awkward. Like, I honestly felt like the Mighty Tux was fun. Like, even though it wasn't revolutionary magic, and I figured out all of the tricks, like it was like, but it was entertaining. Like it was, engaging in some fashion. I loved how they threw in these little quippy like callbacks to the Rue girl, like RuPaul's Drag Race history. Like how they play the whole thing off, and Nina's like, so Brooklyn doesn't know it, but she's gonna get in this little like brown box over here. They like put cuffs on her apparently, and then she does the "I feel very attacked" line.
Very attacked.
Right. I mean, like, so there were these great little moments, even the sillier quips in which, Suga is like, oh, I haven't been on top in, a long time. And then Nina's like, we know. Like, I mean, you know what I mean? So it was like, it was fun, shady, kind of like little banter stuff. That is what, makes people feel engaged and gives them a little bit of humor. And then you get to the other group, and it very much felt like four of them fighting against each other. Not fighting, but like not cohesively working well together. And I think part of it came from when they were in the group. Evie was the one that was like, I don't like us doing nothing but improv. I think it'd be better if we had a script that we could rely on. And it seemed like she was in the minority. And the other three were all perfectly fine with just like rolling with whatever happens in the moment and how to handle it. And I think Evie was scared they were going to have these like deer in headlight moments in which the whole thing would come like crashing
down. Yeah.
So she at least wanted to have something to work off of.
Yeah.
So
and it definitely played half-assed for me.
Yeah, I mean, and that was the other thing. Like, I thought about it, like Silky, I don't know what was up with her look. It was just kind of all over the place. But even Akira, like, she looked more like Vegas showgirl, like over the top. Like, she looked like a circus ringleader more than like a magician. Like, I was so confused. I was like, at least on Nina's team, this is still a criticism. Nina's team, they all were wearing like black and silver, so like they at least all cohesively looked like they were together. But like Brooklyn's was all stars, and like Suga's was a little bit more towards what Nina's was, with these big shoulder pads and kind of like the swimsuit deal, like leotard. It was just, I don't know. It was one of these things where I thought, well, they must not have had a lot of time or been supplied with anything to make the group look cohesive. Do you know what I mean? Like, in terms of like, yes, they have bolts of fabric in the room, but they were probably so busy focusing on magic,
the magic trick, and getting stuff done and making the show. Yeah.
Because I think that would have helped both teams if they had created cohesive looks, like matching esque outfits. Like, they don't have to be identical, like, triplets or quadruplets, but still. And then like another thing, go ahead.
Well, four of the same, like four of the jacket, but in different colors. Like one's in red, one's in blue, one's in purple. Something along those lines.
Right, but then another thing I thought of is maybe the problem is that there were too many members on that team. Like, maybe four was just too awkward. Like, because Nina and Suga and Brooklyn were really tight. Like, like you easily got to go from focus from one to the other, and then when the focus was on the one, the other two were doing something, like, but they weren't stealing focus. So like, there was always kind of a balance. And I thought about it, and I was like, maybe that was the reason why the other team seemed so awkward, because they just didn't have good balance. It felt very much like, and now you do something, and now you do something, like. So Eric says in the live chat, Nina's group knocked it out of the park. Vanjie's team didn't even make it off home plate. Maybe that's the problem, because it was the magic show and not baseball. But yeah. I'm just saying.
Maybe. All right.
You ready to move on?
Yes.
Okay, here we go.
Category is Caftan Realness.
Okay, so this is a first, I believe, in the history of 11 seasons of the show. Why it took till now to do this challenge, I have no clue as to why. But I was living for it. And part of the reason I was living for it was because at my own event that we just
in
the past month, we did a caftan dance. And I think it's silly and fun. Like, caftans are a thing. Caftans are like, easy breezy, beautiful. As Nina said, when she walked the runway, she felt the air on her ass, which she hadn't felt in like weeks, which I thought was hysterical. Like, it was fun that was picked. What I was surprised by, though, was that Rue was not in a caftan. I was like, what? I don't understand how the selection of what you're wearing on the runway to go with the episode is not being matched up better. Don't get me wrong. I loved Rue's like tube dress. I love the chevron type pattern. I thought it was exquisitely made, especially like how it hits the torso area. Like, and I will say it officially, I have realized that I am a fan for Rue as a redhead. As a woman of color, she has, I think, the right skin tone to pull off red hair, where it doesn't look cartoony. It also doesn't look like obviously super fake synthetic-y. There are very few real women of color in the world that have red hair. I will put it that way. So, like, it is kind of a unicorn in a way, but she came out and I was like, wow, like you really, really nice. And then later I was like, but you're not wearing a caftan, which she has on the runway. So I was so disappointed, I guess.
Maybe they wanted to show off her shape.
Perhaps.
Her silhouette.
Yes. So caftan realness is the category. Damon, what did you think?
Yes, Nita. That is how you fucking caftan. I'm not it was so pretty. It was so gorgeous. That when I think of like, I'm gonna be a drag queen in a caftan, that's what I think about. So like glittery and blinged out and big, and just like, when I think of like I said, a drag queen in a caftan, that's what I want to see. Like over the top, the hair was big to kind of match the size that she was, because she's a bigger girl, and the caftan, it all worked out, and it just worked so fucking well. There are a few others that were pretty good. Brooklyn, maybe a caftan, kind of a caftan. I felt kind of bad for Sugar. I personally like the whole like 3, things, but I think it was kind of forced in a little bit. Like they didn't necessarily go together, and that was sort of my problem. Like
thematically, it didn't make any sense.
Yeah, like if it had gone from like Winter Wonderland to Spring Awakening to Summer on the Beach, like maybe I would have followed that storyline, but
yeah,
it didn't quite work for me.
But color palette, it completely changed. You went from like these deep like ruby reds with browns and golds to like this, like it's like you left Anna Karenina and stepped into Beach Blanket Bingo.
Yes,
like or like I don't know. It was just so vastly different, and I was like, girl, what are you doing? Like, I agree that the first outfit would have been fine on its own. I don't think it would have been a knockout, but it would have been something. Like,
yeah, I think if she had gone from one to the other, like that extreme, like the first one to the third one, maybe that would have worked. Maybe, possibly, but to kind of give us this trend, I don't, yeah. Anyway,
so when you said about with Brooklyn, I have to agree that, like, so someone pointed this out, and I think it was on John Pauly's Extra Lap Recap. Maybe someone made a reference to the fact that she looked like one of the muses from is it The Emperor's New Groove?
Hercules.
Oh, Hercules. And I was like, yeah, she does look a little Grecian. Like, and she worked the fuck out of the fabric. Like, she really made it work. But I kind of agree with you that it wasn't exactly a caftan. And I think that's part of the issue that we have with this episode. So this is what I want to say about this challenge. Bring it back like the kimono Madonna debacle thing and make them legitimately like tackle the challenge. Which gets me to my comment.
Go for it, girl. Do it.
Not a fucking caftan. No, ma'am. She came around that corner in that outfit, and I was like, that is not a caftan. And I was talking to nobody because I was watching it at home all by myself. I did not care who listened or who was around. I was I was 10 times angrier than Ross Matthews gets. Like, I was not having it in that moment. I was like, that is not a caftan.
I was like living for Ross's like anger. He was literally like legitimately angry. Like I was like, damn, like but I was laughing my ass off for it.
And then curious,
like
the judge's critique, she's like, in my defense. And I was like, here we go. And I knew she was going to pull that out. When you look up caftan on the internet, it could be spelled with a C or a K. And why do I know this? Because we just had my event and some people criticized about the spelling. And I was like, seriously? Like, anyways.
Girl. So I just like I'm typing in caftan and I'm typing in caftan. I typed them both in. I don't see no fucking butterfly like pantsuit. I mean, so where did you get it, Akiria?
As
what I'm saying,
as was said by Raja and Aquaria in Fashion Photo Review, looks more like you just had this in your closet and you decided to wear it and said, well, it's kind of like a caftan.
Nope. No, it ain't.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're thinking. But like I don't like I literally typed both in and looked at images and I'm like,
yeah,
I don't see anything relatively close to your butterfly.
Oh no! And of course, Eric in the live chat says exactly what some people have said already online in a different way. He said, "I had flashback to Asia O'Hara with Akiria. It was not only horrible, but it gave me nightmares about butterflies being quashed on the runway."
Oh,
too soon.
No,
I know. I was like, oh, that's just bad. Anything now with a butterfly, it's always in Drag Race, it's always going to be related to poor Asia O'Hara. So
she made a mark, just wasn't a good one.
Yeah, it did not necessarily go well. So yeah, I was livid about the fact that she wore that butterfly pantsuit thing because, as Aquarius said in Fashion Photo Review, which I realize is why I was so upset about it. She's like, this like skydiving like jumper thing, no ma'am, that is not a caftan. And I was like, yes, that's exactly what it looks like. You look like one of those sky aerialist like gymnastic people with the wings. I was like, oh no, girl, no, boo. I was not a fan of it. Silky Nutmeg Ganache. So I thought the hair was a stunt. While it's kind of fun, it's kind of cute. It was also not perfectly straight up, which annoyed me. And like what I had a problem with was that because the caftan was sheer, you could easily see through it. So like she had to wear a dress underneath.
Yeah.
And I don't have a problem with it, but it just kind of bothered me a little bit. It felt like when I think of caftan, I think of muumuus, I think of house dresses, I think of Mrs. Roper from Three's Company. Look it up if you don't know what we're talking about. It's also why you didn't get Michelle's jokes on the runway. I mean, like it was a very specific kind of thing in time, like that kind of died out. But it's hers seemed to be more to me like a little more upscale and not quite fully caftan. And the fact that the dress was so easy to see underneath it, the more I think about it, I don't know how shocking it would have been, but probably very interesting if she'd done a nude illusion bodysuit underneath. Like just literally a bodysuit that matched her skin tone.
Yeah.
Because I think that would have been enough of a difference that you would have been like, whoa, like,
yeah, she's naked.
Right, she is naked underneath that thing, and there isn't much left of the imagination. So,
not a whole lot.
Yeah. So
it just felt very like you. I agree with you totally about the hair being this like. To me, it was a gimmick. It was like,
yeah.
Again, for me with Silky, I bought this caftan and figured it fits me, so let's do it. And then, well, I need to do something to make sure that they notice me. So let me throw this big ass thing on my head.
Right. I do want to recognize Evie oddly really surprised me, and I was actually pretty happy with her look. I think that yellow is a really good color on her.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that it was wholly in certain places strategically, like on her left side towards the outer edge, like I thought that was a very interesting choice. The fact that she's decided to play with religious iconography, with, like her like head and some stuff, like, and then because she's got her physical malady, technically the disease, with her double jointedness, she actually like brought her hands together and put her behind her back, which I thought was kind of stunty, but interesting that she waited till now to pull that out. And it thematically went with the story she was telling on the runway in her outfit. And I also was intrigued. Michelle and Rue were not ready for that. I was just like, oh, that's right. Y'all haven't seen everything we've seen, like, to know that much about her condition, like that it wasn't a big surprise.
Yeah.
So yes, and then I have to agree, like it was all fucking Nina. Like a lot of people made comparisons that they thought of Lady Bunny, and I was like, okay, for the record, Lady Bunny, to my knowledge, has never stuck her finger in a light socket and fried her hair so that it comes out sideways. Just saying. It's always been like 10 stacks high, like, more in a beehive style. And she actually, Bunny tends to dress like a 60s like go-go mod girl from
with the bell kind of dresses kind of thing going. Yeah.
Right, and the big puffy sleeve like kind of deal. So I get that there was a Bunny-esque kind of look, but the reality is, to me, it was not the same thing.
True.
So, and I don't agree with Raja and Aquaria on a fashion photo where they kind of were like, Raja really loved the look of the caftan, the cut, the design, but did not like the fabric, and Aquaria hated the fabric. Like, they were like, it's like a little girl's like fabric you'd buy at Joanne Fabrics. Like, they were just reading her for it. And I was like, well, I don't, well, fuck all y'all. Like to me, that's a caftan. Caftans do not have to always be luxurious and high end and crazy. Like,
yeah. It's a fucking caftan. Like,
I know. So that being said, the winner of the episode is Miss Nina West. She gets her second win. And she wins a $3,000 gift card from Merrick and Richard, which apparently is kind of like a design company for fashion and apparel, and a $3,000 gift card from outofoffice.com, which apparently is a company. So girl got $6,000 in gift cards for this episode.
Go ahead.
I know. I was like, yes, Nina. So this makes her the fourth queen to have 2 wins each.
Yes.
Season. So I'll come back to that at the end of the show. There's something I want to talk about because we're getting to a certain point in the whole season. So
yeah.
That being said, are you ready to move on to our next segment?
Yes.
Okay.
Girl, if you're not watching Untucked, you're only getting half the story.
Okay. Let it all hang out, Hunty. It's Untucked. This episode was memorable for one very specific reason, and it was not drama. Like, there was no like wig pulling, cat fighting, kind of stuff. It was something very different. Damon, what were your thoughts?
So I know you're talking about I know what you're going to talk about, but I'm going to talk about something that I called it balancing act. And to me, there was some conversation. So what we find out with the other team, the Black Magic, we find out that Evie apparently wrote the intro and the outro. Like specifically, she wrote it down, gave everyone lines. And when she was critiqued on her, for lack of, I think she being unfocused or being in her head during the judges, critiques, she made a point to say like, oh, hey, like I did all this work and I wrote all this down and da 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 da. And at that point, Vanessa kind of comes not like loudly, but kind of says, I did some like writing stuff down too. And we get this like little back and forth before Akira stops it on the runway. And then we get into Untucked and they bring it up again. And it starts kind of the whole, front of the episode about like, it wasn't drama filled, like it wasn't loud and stuff. So we're kind of cooled heads in a sense. But Akira was stating to Evie that it sounded like the way she was saying what she was saying, that none of them did work and only Evie did. Evie was trying to explain that that's not what I was trying to say.
Right.
I was trying to say that I did all this work and I felt like that was what was taking me off my game. It was two conflicting stories, and I can get where that would be a problem from both sides. Like Evie's trying to defend herself for what she did, showing that she did something, and because of it, maybe it affected her playing the game. And the other girl, specifically Vanjie, was kind of like, but we did work too. We agreed on it. If we had talked about it more, maybe we would have said something like, well, if you feel like you have to write these things, what she says in Untucked, like, I have to write stuff down. I feel better about it if I have something like a script, something to go on. If you had felt that way, maybe we could have worked it out more. And it's, again, it's this whole balancing act about who does what. As we know, this team was a lot of personality. You had Vanjie, you had Silky, you had Akira, who's kind of like, can be like a bit of a personality on her own. And then Evie, who is not as loud and outspoken at times, but not always. Only usually she's loud when she's trying to spill some truth out there.
Right. And I agree that like Evie, she wasn't backpedaling in any way. I think in Untucked, she was just trying to explain her perspective and was coming around slowly to understanding basically that the other girls were saying, yeah, but the way you phrased it on the runway, you made it seem like we didn't do things when in fact we did do things. And Evie was like, well, I didn't say that you didn't do things. And they're like, yes, but that's not like the way you phrased your statement came across like we hadn't contributed or had done much of the writing. Or any of the writing in a way. And so I understood why, like, but to me, it was like, this is just the way it is. And at the same time, Evie is still sticking to her core belief, which is not my problem. Like, you can defend yourself just like I can defend myself. And we can both have differing points of view. But instead of like staying in their lane, most of the queens, I think, come for Evie. And that's where the problem is, because Evie doesn't really come for them. Evie just states like observational stuff. Like, quit complaining about blah, blah, blah. Why don't you actually try doing what the judges tell you? Like, that's one of her common themes that she keeps delivering, and the queens don't like hearing that. And she's like, not my problem that you don't like hearing the same thing from me that the judges tell you that you don't listen to. Like, so
I totally agree 100%. I think that Evie just needs to, like, I hate to say it, let it go. Like, because obviously they're not going to listen to the judges. They're obviously not going to listen to you.
Right. Yeah.
And then they can just go on their own.
One by one every week.
One by one. What about you, Gary?
I said how important family love is, and I'm obviously a little sensitive to this, given what's happened in my life recently. So Brooklyn gets a video from home from her mom.
Oh,
you find out that her mom is very religious, but not like in a weird, I don't want to say weird, not in a conservative, like, you're going to be damned to hell for eternity kind of conservative, like religious. She's just very like religious. And what I found really interesting was that she came from the side of religion, I think as a Christian, to say, who am I to judge you? Because I am imperfect in my own way that God has made me, and God still loves me for who I am. So therefore I should love you for who you are. And like, that just really broke me down. And I was like, boohooing along with the queens in Brooklyn, watching this video from her mom. And it was really like these are the things in Untucked that I like, honestly, is when we have these growth moments where you get to see a little bit of the background of where a person comes from, and you find out about like how they are as an individual. And my impression of Brooklyn's relationship with her mother is that it's not necessarily super strong and tight, and it's partially because Brooklyn is different. You know, she is gay, and she became a drag queen, and she left Canada and moved to the US. And so I can see where like they're not, super tight, in as terms of like a relationship bond as a family. Yet at the same time, I thought it was a like really kind of redemptive moment in that you got to understand that as a parent, you have choices to make and how you like see your children and how you, respond to things about them. And I think, Brooklyn's mom came across really well to say, who am I? But, a parent that loves my child, and therefore, like, this is not something to not love them about, kind of a thing. So I thought that was a really good, like, kind of touching moment in terms of the season. That everyone kind of gets to see that.
It was a very beautiful moment that I wasn't expecting.
Yeah.
And it was, I mean, I don't want to really comment too much on it because I'll start crying. It was just a very beautiful kind of situation that like you hear that from the person that probably you thought you would never hear it from, if that makes sense. Like that's kind of, I mean, although they probably have known it for a while, but to like have it kind of recorded essentially and put out there for everyone essentially to see now, kind of really kind of touches the heart very much so.
And it seemed that like Brooklyn's mom had a lot to say, and that they had edited it just for what we not, and I don't mean edit Untucked. I mean like the video that they actually played for the Queens backstage, quote unquote, that had been cut down from whatever Brooklyn's mom had recorded. And that's also one of the intriguing things I find about these videos from home is like in some cases, like you can tell like the family is not good with technology, so they don't know how video works. Like they don't know how it works. Like, they're just trying to like figure out the record button at the end and that kind of stuff, which is fun. And then at the same time, like you get some, like they know their lighting, they know their angle, like everything's very polished. And Brooklyn's mom was very much from the like, I understand Skype. And then she decided to take this moment to really kind of like talk about her learning through accepting Brooklyn, and what all that is. And I thought that was probably the part that I liked a lot about these like family video things. Like, yes, like sometimes they're very like tearful and stuff because you get a message from home from someone that you love, or that more importantly, may not always have been in your corner, or you've struggled with like, in terms of coming out or being a drag queen or whatever it is. And it seems that Brooklyn tried really hard to not say anything negative about her mom, to just simply be like, we had to go through a thing. Like we had to adjust and and kind of reset in a way our relationship in terms of how we deal with each other and stuff like that. And I thought that was really good. So that's where I was like, all right, like to me that's like the important part of this particular episode, not to take away from what you're talking about, but to me I was just kind of like meh, like they're just and whatever. So all right, that being said, are you ready to move on to our next thing? Okay.
Ladies, this is your last chance to impress me and save yourself from elimination. Time has come. Should lip sync for your life. Good luck, and don't fuck it up.
So the bottom two this week are, I suppose I should probably like, play this just in case. Yeah. Spoiler alert. In case for some reason you haven't seen the episode and you're watching us two fools, we already spoiled who won. We're about to spoil who's in the bottom. So Vanessa is in the bottom again. for the second time, and Sugarcane.
I think this is actually the third
for
her.
Vanessa.
I think. Let me check.
Okay.
Let me look.
I thought this was Vanessa's second time, and the only reason why I thought about that is because she was just in the bottom a week ago. And I thought, oh, here we go. Like, we're on that train. Like, this is usually how it happens. You end up in the bottom, you stay in the bottom. Like, you might get to a third time or a fourth time, and then that's it. Like, there's like,
okay. She wasn't in the bottom. She was a low 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
So,
and now is this Sugarcane's first time in the bottom?
No, she's been in the bottom. This was her third. So she was in the bottom 6 with that wonderful team kind of thing. Right. Then she was in the bottom 2 weeks later. Right. And then she was in the bottom this time.
So oh, well, we're going to talk about that. So Eric says in the live chat, Sugar should not have been in the bottom. This is where the episode just pisses me the fuck right off. So here's the interesting thing, because a lot of people have feelings about this.
Okay.
They feel that it should have been handled as a team challenge, meaning Nina being the winner, her team was the better team. So all 3 of them should have been safe.
Mm-hmm.
And the 2 in the bottom should have come from Vanessa's team. I never saw it that way.
Mm-hmm.
After that got brought up online, I was like, oh, that is technically an interesting way to look at it. Like, because in the past, the majority of the time, when a team does bad, either the whole team is in the bottom, and then the bottom 2 come out of that, or you know what I mean? Like
yeah.
Kind of naturally progresses, and that was not the case this time.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. And I don't know how I feel about it at this moment. Like, if I had an opportunity to watch the episode again, I agree that Sugar was not like a standout, but I don't think she did bad. You know, I don't think her runway was bad. Well, actually, I do think her runway was bad. Never mind. Let me rephrase. I just thought she could have maybe done something else. I didn't think this was not a bottom 2 offensive week for me for her. Vanessa, kind of.
Well, so if you're going to apply the thing that Vanessa was the leader of the team that was in the bottom, and that's why she's in the bottom, then I think it lends more to the way people are feeling about this episode, that Sugar should have not been in the bottom.
True. I think it should have been Vanessa, and I want to say Silky. Maybe Silky, maybe I don't want to say Evie per se, but
I know. So here's the thing. I know, but here's the thing. Like, so I think it should have been Vanessa and probably Evie, or maybe Akira. And here's the problem. Here's why. Because Silky was funny enough in their own skit with her quips and her personality that I think people are okay with her, like, and her performance, even though her hip pads were problematic and her look was not that great. Like,
oh my God, that
I know, girl. So, like, it was just one of these things that I don't know. I'm really kind of
torn.
Yeah, because this is where I think we're ending up at. So we're going from 7 to 6, and yeah, we're gonna spoil like what's gonna happen, that we're gonna end up with 6. Somebody does go home, just letting you know. Here's the thing. I think we've passed the halfway point, and now we're starting to move into that phase that, Damon, you and I have talked about this before. It no longer is about the week to week. I think the judges and Rue are really starting to think more about what you've brought to the table and what you could bring to the table, so to speak, like what you're going to bring to the runway, like what you're representing and how you carry yourself. And that's where now we get these kind of odd cutouts in terms of who is in the bottom and who gets sent home, because we're very quickly entering the finale. We're very quickly entering top 4.
True.
So I think that's part of this point, and I think you and I were discussing it like this past week about who we thought were probably the most likely next 2 to go to get us to top 5 to top 4.
True.
And so Sugar to me was not going to be top 4. Like, I didn't expect it. So the fact that she was in the bottom didn't bother me. The fact that spoiler alert, The fact that she goes home is also not a surprise to me.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, from the viewpoint of her not having, she should have not been in the bottom because of being on the winning team and past history. I can understand that. I don't know. Like, I don't really have an opinion one way or the other because I kind of felt like, well, somebody got to go home.
Mm-hmm.
So what I found more interesting was the fact that Vanessa and Suga had to perform to "No More Drama" by Mary J. Blige.
Mm-hmm.
It's a beautiful song. It's an emotional song.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very well-known song.
Girl.
I'll get to that in a moment. So you start with your part first.
So good fucking song. I love this. Like, you know, this was one of those songs where it felt appropriate given what we've seen so far in, you know, the recent months or, you know, weeks of the episodes. It was it wasn't an awful lip sync for your life, but it was, to me, becoming very clear who was going on top. And no, you know, discount to Suga's performance, but I don't know if you noticed, but her eyes were closed a lot. Like, I don't know, it just felt odd to me. And while the song is emotional and has the potential for, like, I'm gonna, like, you know, close my eyes and do some stuff, like, you know, artistically, whatever, you know, they probably want to see you and see your eyes and see your face. And Bianchi was given everything. Like, she was throwing jewelry all over the fucking runway. She was bouncing and dancing around. She threw her the thing that was holding her hair down. She took that off so her hair would be, like, you know, wild and shaken. It all just kind of worked for me. Yeah. It wasn't bad, but she definitely was fighting for her life in a sense.
Yes.
So what about you, Mr. Gaddy?
So here's the thing that I have a problem with, and it's completely my problem. I call it the original is not the remix. I think most gays know the dance remix version of No More Drama, not the original. Because what the original doesn't do is it doesn't climax. The original kind of starts low, and then it gradually grows and it gets more emotional and you get into this stuff and see, like, I'm getting goosebumps starting to think about it. But then it just doesn't quite deliver. It has this amazing turn and it kind of like it kind of crests, but it doesn't climax. It, like, kind of just quickly subsides and goes back down and has this soft ending. And as a person, as a performer, I'm like, this is to be one of the most excruciating songs to perform because you don't get to go fucking nuts. Because the song doesn't call for it. The song does not peak that way. The song kind of suddenly throws it into lower gear, and then, like, you know, and it gets back down. And so I was bothered by the fact that it was the original only because I wanted to see Vanessa lose her shit. Like, she was working the hell out of that caftan dress. All she needed was the remix at that one moment where it starts to kick in, and you knew the whole place would have been on fire. Like,
yeah,
the set would have been in flames. Every queen would have been throwing money at the stage because immediately, like, you just start to Stevie Nicks the fuck out of it. You start turning and, like, turn and burn the hell out of it, spin around, and then you eventually fall on your knees, throw yourself all over the place. Major fucking drama. And that's not what happens. So it was good, but it was anticlimactic. It was like, I don't think I've ever said this in the history of lip syncs on RuPaul's Drag Race, but I think I got blue balls from this. Like, I was I was not disappointed. I was just dissatisfied, I guess. Like, as it didn't get to deliver the way you really want it to, because the song doesn't do that because it's the original, not the remix. So
Womp, womp, womp. So we've got some comments for.
yes, I know.
Yeah. Let me just read this. So, Philip says, I just think this is the second time Silky was read a lot and they didn't put her in the bottom. And then I think he continued his comment, but Eric kind of said it before it. But it's like they need a big girl to stay in the competition to a certain point before cutting her out. Well, I mean, I mean, I'll get to Silky later. But Eric says 9.5 times out of 10, the bottoms get based off performance in the maxi. Akira should have been there with Vanjie because she fucked the runway completely up on top of the poor maxi performance. Okay, I can see that.
Right. I especially agree with what Eric's saying there. Like, when you want to balance out and say, okay, how important was the runway? How much does that make a factor? Then yes, absolutely. Akira really should have been in the bottom, like 3, if not bottom 2, because of the caftan crap.
Yeah. Agreed.
Now, I will say this because I thought it was hysterical in the episode about how they had to edit their own show and like redo it, quote unquote, at the last moment. And I love how they included that Rue called it out and goes, so you redid your show because it was too adult, yet the deep throating balloon act stayed in?
True. I mean, true.
I know, but what's funny about it is I was like, well, technically it's supposed to be sword swallowing, but I guess because they're drag queens and liability and insurance policies and whatever, they couldn't really swallow a sword. So instead they swallowed a balloon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Great. So Eric says, I'm just tired of Silky and Vanjie being thrown bones just to keep entertainment on the show.
Ooh. Oh. Go ahead, Eric. It's that shit.
So
fan. Like,
we'll get back to that, I think. All right. So as I said, sugarcane sachets away.
Womp womp.
We're down to 6. So that being said, let's get into our next segment, shall we? All right, high points, low points, snaps and eye rolls. Damon, who do you give snaps to?
I am giving snaps to the entire team, the Mighty Tucks. As I mentioned earlier, I loved their magic show performance. Yes, the magic was cheap and fake, but what helped me was that they were very entertaining. They had this it was very well scripted. I'm assuming Nina did a lot of the work on this. It was very well detailed. They had characters that worked really well. I loved it from beginning to end. It kept me engaged despite the fact that it was not the greatest magic. But they all played off each other. The banter was good. They didn't necessarily run anyone over. It was a very good, balanced show.
Right.
Well, Nina kind of took the ball and like ran with it literally. But
yeah.
But you know, Brooklyn did her thing, and I love that Brooklyn has developed a lot more. While she's still keeping to the whole I'm a dancer and she can move very gracefully and what have you, she's using some of that in different ways to kind of bring on the laughs in her comedy. We saw it last week with the whole level 4 vegan thing. And we're seeing it now. So kudos to her. And Suga, I liked her in this thing. I agree with Eric and Philip that she should not have been in the bottom, but unfortunately them's the breaks. Like I don't know. I don't know. Like in my mind, I get totally what you're saying, that it's probably, it shouldn't have been her going and in the bottom, but what can we do about it at this point?
It may have just been inevitable. Like eventually you got to go, girl. Like you just ain't going to make it again.
True.
So my snaps are for Nina fucking West. Like, and she actually has t-shirts that say that, by the way. You can go buy them online. I might just go buy one. Here's the thing. Like, I'm really, I've been in the camp of Nina from early on in the season. I like what she does. And as everyone kept saying over and over again, this was Nina's to win, because this is what she does. She puts on shows. She does full production things, works on stuff. There's footage recently online of her. Earlier this year, she got to play Ursula, the Sea Witch, in a stage production musical of The Little Mermaid, and she was good in it. I mean, like, it's just who she is. So the fact that she was kind of like the star of the Mighty Tux was not necessarily surprising. I liked the fact that technically Nina had 2 tricks, but the first trick was really her joining, coming on stage thing. So the appearing kind of aspect with the door was technically a magic trick, but you may not realize that. And then like the whole like everybody gets a bottle because I'm an alcoholic thing, which was kind of silly. But I like the fact that like Sugar got her thing with the tucking panties and Brooklyn got her thing with the bubbles, and then they did the switch with the box situation. So technically Nina was just there, like, ta-da, while the other 2 girls were doing the other trick. So I like the fact that Sugar and Brooklyn got to work together on a trick. So technically everybody did 2 tricks. 2 of them got to work on a trick together. And actually, I guess now that I think about it, the 3 of them worked on the other trick with Nina, like the reveal of her appearing. So yeah, like it was well done from beginning to end. And then I love the fact that I personally think she slayed the runway with the caftan look.
Oh my God, she so fucking did.
Yeah. So
yeah.
Eye rolls, Damon.
So my eye rolls are for sickly, nutmeg, gabba. I am tired of her. Like I am done. I don't. She seems to have like, I'm just gonna coast. Essentially, I'm not gonna do much more. She's never changed her look, face wise, ever. We get a different hair. Like, thank God for this caftan that she found, because I'm just getting tired of everything. And I agree with Eric that like I feel like they're keeping her in probably for her personality, and that's what's bothering me the most. I've had enough of it. Like, I'm over this like loud mouth whatever big thing that's trying to like make a name for herself and get her own show and all this shit. I wouldn't watch a show that she was on. I wouldn't. Like, after an episode, I'd be done, because it would just be her. Boom, man, that's it. Here's my awful hair. Like, I just like, no. Like, I'm not seeing growth, and I'm not seeing change. And that's what I usually like to see in my winning queens. I like to see a story. I like to see an arc where maybe they're not so great in the beginning. They kind of build up, or maybe they are doing really well in the beginning, but then they get knocked down a peg, and we get this whole like arc of their redemption, in a sense, in regards to doing well in the show. And then that's how they kind of, the competition goes on. And here we go with the final 4, and then they win, kind of thing. That's what I usually like to see. If Silky makes it to top 4, I will be flabbergasted. I will probably be more angry than I am right now, because I don't think she deserves it. I'm not going to call her talentless in that regard. I'm going to call her mediocre.
Okay.
Like I'm not getting anything good from her. Personality aside, yes, she's funny. She can quip and what have you at times. But after a while, it becomes a lot of the same shit. Same shit, different day. And that's when it is boring to me. Having said that, I think she should also I don't think she should have been in the bottom this week. I think it was fine for her to be safe. As much as I would have liked her to have been in the bottom, I don't know. I don't think it would work. I feel and I hope that the whole fact that she's going to have to potentially paint another girl is going to throw her off her game, because she seems to be really only able to paint one face.
Interesting.
How about you, Gary?
Mine kind of segues or falls right into where you were leaving off at. I said no growth queens. My eye rolls are for these queens that are just not changing. They really aren't challenging themselves. And like in the case of Silky, she doesn't think that she needs to change. You just read. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like I think that Vanjie's not growing and evolving and changing. Their note and criticism back to her all the time is, girl, you are at level 10. Like you start at 10, you end at 10. You were always at 10. You were always Vanessa. You were always Vanjie. And there's nothing else coming out of you. But I feel bad for Vanessa because she doesn't know what to do with that. As Jinx Monsoon said in the pit stop this week, when you're a returning queen and you're known for one thing and it becomes your brand, it's very difficult to break out of that mold. Because that's what you think you should be delivering all the time, or what you're told is good about you. And yet at the same time, this season, that's all Vanjie's been getting is like criticism about the fact that she's Vanjie. Like that they want to see more out of her. So my eye rolls though are the fact that she's not really seeming to understand how to change. Suga didn't seem to be changing a whole lot. Like she said she was attempting to, but she always seemed to just fall back into like the same level. And Silky, you know, like I was saying, she just thinks that she's okay the way she is. And it's like, well, no, girl, you're not okay the way you are. And no, you will not win with that attitude or how you are delivering.
So fucking true. I'm like I said, I'm done. Like I'm done with her. Like it'll be great if she, you know, stays and maybe makes the top 4.
Right.
But I don't think she has it to win.
Right.
Like I just don't.
Yeah.
And holy fuck, if she actually wins.
She's not gonna win. I don't think she's gonna win. So this gets into the thing that I've been kind of teasing that I want to talk about before we do our closing. We're now down to 6. So we now have Akira, Brooklyn, Nina, Silky, Vanessa, and Evie. I would like to, I think in our entourage, and if I could figure out how to do it, create like a Google Doc and have everybody put in their top 4. Now that we're at 6, who do we think are going to be the top 4? The presumption is we're going to have the same ending that we've had for 2 seasons now, where top 4 end up doing lip syncs. So 2 queens randomly selected lip sync together. The other 2 queens automatically lip sync together. The winners of those then lip sync together. And that's how we get the ultimate winner. I want to know what everybody's top 4 choices are like at this point, where they feel, because I think there's definitely now one person or 2 people that may very well feel like they need to fall out, like they need to go away before we get to top 4. And then what I want to know is if we can create it kind of like bracket style, like who are your top 4? Who do you think is going to make it like ahead, and who do you think will win, kind of a thing, or who do you want to win? Like and maybe I won't create the document. Like I just think it'll be an interesting discussion, because we've now entered this point where we were talking about, I think 4 of the queens have 2 wins. And if you want to mathematically look at it, like, and use that as the rationale as to who the top 4 are, I think that's one way to look at it. I think there's another way in which there's discussion about, you know, keeping a big girl in the competition, keeping big personalities in the competition, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And also, notably, I believe, we have two people who have not been in the bottom two. Am I right about this?
Technically, yes. So,
Okay.
so just so everyone's statistics, hey, that's me. So Nina and Silky have never been in the bottom two.
Right.
Akiria, Brooklyn, Nina, and Silky have 2 wins each. Evie has a win, but has been in the bottom.
Okay.
Once. Vanjie does not have a win and has been in the bottom twice.
Okay. So, because my thought on it is, if you get one of those two or both of those two to be in the top 4 and they've never lip synced, it will be very interesting to see them lip sync for the very first time in top 4 contention.
Yeah.
And they might have to lip sync twice. If they do well enough in the first round, they might have to lip sync again to win the crown. So I don't know how that'll play out.
Yeah. It's going to be a very interesting thing. As I'm like, I look at this and I'm looking at this statistically. Like balancing like lows and highs and safes and wins. Brooklyn's first. Nina is second. Silky is third. Akiria maybe fourth. She's got a lot of Akiria had a lot of safe. So and then you put Evie and then Vanjie. Like if you were to like bracket them off based on totally on just like wins, safes, lows, highs, etc. I can see this kind of thing. Brooklyn has had a lot of highs, but she's been in the bottom once. She's got 2 wins and she's been low once. So yeah, it's gonna be an interesting couple of weeks. If we go with trend, and I'm just gonna put it out there, Vanjie's gonna be gone this next episode. Unless something dramatic happens.
Right.
After that, it's probably gonna be I see Silky. Like as I'm looking at it, like the fact that she has 2 wins, it's kind of countered by the fact that she's been low a couple of times, and in fact she's had some highs. Evie has a bottom, but she has a win, and she's been high in 5 of the 10 episodes. So in half of the episodes, she got really good critiques. So it's hard, like.
Right. And so if we're going off of what is supposed to be the upcoming episode, so this next one is called Bring Back My Queens, which is a makeover challenge, which is really late in the season, actually.
Not really. I think they've usually done it with like 6 or 7. I'd have to go back through and look again, but
I guess the reason why I feel like it's late is because after the makeover challenge, there's one more, and then we move into reunion, and then it's finale. Like,
oh, true.
Like that's what I mean. Like it's late in the season because technically that means there's only 4 more episodes. Technically 2 more competitive episodes, then the reunion, then the finale. Like super fast, it's going to be over with. So yeah, like
so last year. Sorry, just as I'm going to it, it was episode 10. Which was also the episode that Monet got eliminated, which was 2 before the reunion and 3 before the finale.
All right, so that is following the same pattern. We're just 1 episode number wise higher, probably because there's 1 more queen this season. 15.
Yeah.
Interesting. So yeah, like I think, like we have 2 more weeks. We're gonna lose 2 more queens. We'll go from 6 to 5 to 4, and then we'll know who our final 4 are. And then as you and I were discussing, like they've shaken up the calendar, because normally they would record the finale on the Sunday after DragCon ends, as well as the reunion like the day after, or I don't know, or maybe on the day before, something like that. And then like the very fast turnaround, they would produce those. But it appears that I don't know how they're doing it this year, because I've seen no notices about tickets or dates or any of that kind of stuff. And it's usually on Mother's Day weekend, but DragCon got moved to the last weekend of the month. So I think this coming Sunday, a week from now, is possibly when the finale is being taped, along with the reunion. And then that still gives them enough time to crank out the reunion on the 23rd, and then the finale will be on the 30th, which will be after DragCon, which is interesting because that means technically when LA DragCon happens, the new current reigning queen does not get to walk the pink carpet runway entrance. Well, I guess technically none of them do, because it's always airing after DragCon. So
okay, thank you, Wikipedia, or not Wikipedia. Thank you, Internet. The finale is May 13th.
Oh, so it's Monday, the day after Mother's Day. Okay.
Sorry, there's a Ticketmaster. So
post. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, there's none say there. You can't buy any, but like,
right.
It's going to be apparently taped Monday, May 13th at 6:00.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, there you go. All right.
That's where things lie. We're down to 6 and soon 5, then 4, and we're gonna have a finale, and we'll have crowned a new winner. So if you would like to discuss your ideas with us on how things are going with Drag Race, you can go to our blog, cubsoutloud.com. You can leave a comment on a post there. You can send us an email to cubsoutloud@gmail.com. You could also give us a ring and leave us a voicemail message at 361-COL Talk. That's 361-265-8255. On social media, just basically type in Cubs Out Loud for Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, all that kind of jazz. You'll find us on there. If you would like to join the Entourage social chat, you can go to tinyurl.com/telegram-COLDR to join the chat. And now that Damon and I have recorded this week's episode of COLDR, they can start talking about this week's episode and get all their thoughts and ideas.
Air their thoughts. Air that laundry shit. Go for it.
Put your tucks on the line, girl. Make sure you air them out. If you would like to support Cubs Out Loud overall, there are 2 ways you can do that. You can go to our Zazzle.com/Cubs Out Loud store, and you can get like fun little things like, this hat that I'm wearing. We have t-shirts, we have all sorts of different things, not just only with Cubs Out Loud on it, but also our COL Drag Race icon, which is the bear with a crown. Yes. You can also become a patron and go to patreon.com/Cubs Out Loud, where Mr. Eric in the live chat actually tonight is one of our patrons. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
Our Patreon over the past year was successful, and that allowed us to pay for our domain and hosting for the coming year. Yay. Whoop, whoop, whoop. So thank you very much. We met the goal. That's been a long time coming to be able to do that part. So also you can help promote Cubs Out Loud. Talk to other people about it. Let them know. You can rate us on iTunes. You can subscribe on Google Play Podcasts. I believe Jeff said we're coming to
Spotify.
I think that's what he said. Anyway, so basically wherever you listen to Cubs Out Loud, you can find us. We do have our own Cubs Out Loud Drag Race feed though. So yeah, just be aware of that. Damon, if they want to get in touch with you, where would they find you online?
If you want to get in touch with me, and you know that you do, you can always find me as TheaterCup79 on most bear-related sites, or you can find me as pup_umbra on Twitter.
Okay. If you would like to get in touch with me, you can pretty much find me anywhere online as Garbear73. That's GARBEAR73. And with that, we are going to go to the moon.
Bye, everybody.
Have a good one, y'all. And if you want to support Nina West, you go to ninawest.com/shop.
Buy that shit.
Bye.